Today in lesson 6, we are on page 44 in the book. Today we're talking about adding negative fractions. There are a lot of things that are similar about fractions and integers. We still are going to use the same rules. We just now have to deal with fraction skills as well. Our question says a bird bath is filled to the top on day 1. The volume of water in the bowl decreases by 7/8 of a cup. On day 2, the volume of water in the bowl decreases by 3/4 of a cup. What number represents the total change in volume of water in the bowl after 2 days? I'm going to skip the picture and the model it right now, and I'll come back to it because first we need to review some fraction skills. So this is on page 45. Question number 2 says, think about the expression -7/8 plus -3/4. What do you need to do before you can add fractions? The rule for adding fractions is to find a common denominator, and that means we have to cut them into the same size pieces. The 7/8 is cut into 8 pieces, the 3/4 is cut into 4 pieces, so my common denominator between those two is going to be 8. So now I need to change my fraction so that they both have a common denominator of 8. I like to do mine vertically, so I'm going to do it over here in the corner of the page. So I have -7/8 and -3/4. And I know that they're both negative because my water is going to go down and then it's going to go down again. Just like if you look back at page 44, the picture it, you can see that it's going to go to the left and then to the left. So now I'm ready to find my common denominator, which we already said is 8. To find a common denominator, you multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So I would do 8 times 1 to get 8. So I do -7 times 1 to get -7. Now for -3/4, I will do 4 times 2 to get 8 and -3 times 2 to get -6. So my first step, I found my common denominator. I'm finished with that. Now what's my second step in adding fractions? So the second step for adding fractions is to add the numerators. And I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that with my numerators together. So I would have -7 plus -3 over 8 was our denominator. Now I add the numerators and leave the denominator the same. So -7 plus -3, they're both negatives and I'm adding, so I will get -10 over 8. And that is a good enough answer, but if you really want to turn it into a mixed number, you can divide. Oh, and I made a mistake. I wrote it down wrong. See if you can find my mistake. All right, now it's fixed. I should have written -7 plus -6, which is -13. So I'm going to do -13 divided by 8. I just leave the negative off right now and I divide like normal. So my answer will be negative. 8 goes into 13 one whole time. 1 times 8 is 8. I subtract and get 4. So 4 is my, and I'm making all sorts of mistakes today. What mistake did I just make? So that should have been a 5. So I have 5 will be my numerator, and then 8 is still my denominator. So if I change it into a mixed number, I will get -1 5/8. We've already answered number 4. It says, what quantity represents the total change? Write your answers as a mixed number. So the mixed number is -1 5/8. And number 5, what does that -1 5/8 represent? Look at the problem on the previous page. What does a negative answer mean? Check your number 5 with mine. And then number 6, how is adding 2 negative fractions like adding 2 positive fractions, and how is it different? And question 7, how is adding 2 negative fractions similar to adding 2 negative integers? Check your number 7 and then try question 8 and 9 and check it with the video. In both 8 and 9, you had to first turn it, for both question 8 and question 9, you had to first turn your mixed number improper. So you do the denominator times the whole number. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So that is negative 5 over 2. They were the same number, negative 2 and 1/2 and negative 2 and 1/2. So I have negative 2 and 1/2 plus negative 5. I'm sorry, negative 2 and 1/2 is negative 5/2 now. So I have negative 5/2 plus negative 5/2. I forgot to show the keep, change, flip there because we keep the first number as negative. We change minus to positive when we change our second number to a negative. Then I don't have to find a common denominator. They already have one. So negative 5 plus negative 5 is negative 10 over 2. And negative 10 divided by 2, because fraction means divide, it's the same thing as negative 5. On number 9, I had to do the same thing. She lost 1 1/4 point, so that's negative 1 1/4. Plus she lost 1/8 of a point plus negative 1/8. I first turned my mixed number improper. So I have negative 5 over 4 plus negative 1 over 8. Then I found my common denominator of 8. Then I added my numerators, negative 10 plus negative 1 over 8, and I get negative 11 over 8. And if you want to turn that into a mixed number, you could divide negative 11 divided by 8, and you would get negative 1 3/8. Our second question on lesson 6 is on page 46. Now we're going to talk about some decimals. Julia is playing a computer game. To enter a new quest, she has to pay a tax of 2.5 points, and she expects to earn 7.5 points. For each quest, how many points can she gain overall? So first, they showed this on the number line. 0.5 is the same thing as 1/2, so each part of the number line is cut into half for 0.5. So if she loses 2.5, she loses 1 whole, 2 wholes, and then she's at 2.5. Then she gained 7.5, so she would gain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 0.5 is where she will end up. So our final answer is going to be 5, but we want to show how to do that without having to draw a number line with fractions. So we're going to go ahead to question number 10. Think about a loss of 2.5 and a gain of 7.5. Explain how you would know whether Julia's overall result will be a gain or a loss, and whether the result should be represented as a positive or a negative. Now our next question says, how can you determine the difference between the gain and the loss? Well, difference in math means subtract. On the last assessment, a lot of people said, well, difference was smaller or bigger. But difference means subtraction. So I know I would subtract because I have a negative 2.5 and a positive 7.5, so they will cancel each other out. So because one is positive and one is negative, I will subtract the two numbers. And I just typed that in for you so you could see it a little bit easier. Number 12, how does knowing the difference between the gain and the loss tell you the overall result? Well, when you know the difference between them, that tells you how much is left over after the positives and negatives had canceled each other out. Now remember, for 10, 11, and 12, your words do not have to match my words exactly. So now question 13 is where we actually are going to work it out. What is negative 2.5 plus 7.5? Well, I'm going to start with the bigger number, 7.5. So when I'm subtracting, I will do 7.5 minus 2.5. So I will subtract. I will get 0.5 minus 5 is 0. 7 minus 2 is 5. And I know it's going to be a positive answer because we had more gains than losses. So my answer is a positive 5. And then what they did here is they just changed it into fractions to show you would end up with the same thing. So 7.5 and 2 1/2. The halves will cancel out, and that would be 7 minus 2 again to still get an answer of positive 5. Now explain how you can find the sum when you are adding a positive and a negative decimal or fraction. Include how to know whether the sum is positive or negative. So for 14, basically, if you are adding a positive and a negative number, it's just like integers. You find the difference, so you subtract them. And then the sum is the one that has the greater absolute value. That's what determines if it's a positive or negative. It's whoever has the most wins, whoever is further away from 0. Now question 15, explain how to add how to add the additive inverse to find the value of an expression such as -4 1/4 minus parentheses -2 1/4. Because we are subtracting, we will do keep, change, flip. So we will have -4 1/4 plus -2 1/2 turns into positive 2 1/4, or -4 1/4 plus 2 1/4. I know one's positive and one's negative, so I'm going to end up subtracting them. I can turn them both into mixed numbers. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17. So that will be -17/4, plus 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9, plus 9/4. So I will do -17 plus 9. They're already a common denominator, so I don't have to worry about that part. So I will get -6/4, which will simplify. -6/4 will simplify to divide both by 2, -3/2. If you want to, you can change that into a mixed number, -1 1/2. Now we need to explain those steps. Now try questions 16 and 17 and check it with the video.